Hey there. Sorry, recording in progress. And I am almost just blanked myself out of my video. Okay, just screeching into home plate here, getting ready to start this fascinating webinar, I think. I love to educate myself. During the week, I am constantly trying to learn, as you guys know, and I was just telling Dale before I left, I said, gee, it's really kind of cool. Like, as I learn, I'm able to immediately, because of this setup I have of doing these webinars and stuff, immediately bring information to you that's exciting to me. And with all those things in place, that's really, really a cool, wonderful thing to be able to do. So, briefly introduce myself, Becky Montrone. I have a degree in holistic nutrition from way back when. Most of what I know, I did not learn in school. I have a degree, holistic nutrition, so I am certified through the American Association of Drugless Practitioners to give myself some numbers after my letters after my name that may or may not mean much of anything, but I know what I'm doing and been in practice for almost 20 years now, helping people find a way to ways to be as healthy as possible using diet, nutrition, supplements, you name it, lifestyle management, that kind of thing. So anyway, I have a practice here, and we are located on Roxbury Street in Keene, New Hampshire, downtown, up on the third floor of the wonderful old Miller Forge building. Beautiful, beautiful building. I'm so lucky to be here, so blessed. And we are open 9:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. We have a whole shop with supplements and many of the herbal products, the herbal products that are my original formulas, and we also make, we have a full skincare line that's all botanical, chemical free, phthalate free, for all of that. It's really wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff, and it's really a joy to be able to be doing at this point in my life the things that I feel that gravitate to with me, that resonate with me, that I naturally gravitate to. My dad was a compound pharmacist. My mother was a nurse, but my mother got us into nutrition. And I got the DNA wanting to figure out uh, solutions for health problems, how to prevent health problems. Big thing is dementia, Alzheimer's disease, because my mother had early onset, fast, rapid progressing Alzheimer's disease beginning at age 49. I am 67. I will never have Alzheimer's disease of that. I know that, and I'm very confident. So that's really a great place to be in life. So okay, what I want to tell you about is just do a brief introduction. Those of you who get my newsletter ahead of time, kind of explaining what I'm talking about. So what happened was, I found out about plasmalogens. Oh, to participate, you can, oh, I didn't even really finish my intro. So I have two websites, wondersuits.org, which is basically a lot of material you can learn from. Like all this stuff I put up there. So go to learn at the top of the navigation bar of wondersuits.org, or type in what you're interested in finding information about into the search bar, and you'll probably find it. But then I have another whole website that is all of our stuff that we sell, and that's shop Okay. So from either of those places, if you want to reach me personally, you can go to contact us and type into and send me an email. It comes to my private email. I'm the one who sees those, and I am the only one who sees them and gets back. Okay. I think that's it. All right. So yeah, I was learning about plasmalogens. Plasmalogens being these foundational players in our lives and our bodies, or in our lives, yes, in our lives, because without them, we are dead. But we're dead without a lot of things in our bodies, right? But plasmalogens are very critical. And what I learned is that as we have less plasmalogens as we age, all kinds of things can ensue, and especially things that have to do with the brain. And yet, Dr. Goodenowe, Dayan Goodenowe has shown and graphed and demonstrated in studies that as the brain deteriorates, the rest of the body deteriorates as well. So if you're suffering mild cognitive impairment and that is going to be progressing, then your body is going to age more rapidly as a whole because of what's happening in the brain. And so these are very, very critical pieces of knowledge that we can apply to our lives. So I learned about plasmalogens. I researched them. I found out about Dayan Goodenowe, and about a month ago, I attended a all-day seminar that he was holding up at where he is in Saskatchewan, Canada, and Moose Jaw, where he originates from and where all of his work is done. And I attended a virtual seminar that was like a full day long, and it was really excellent. And then I was notified he was doing a webinar on cholesterol transport and choline and stuff like that on August 27. And it's perfect because it's 5 o'clock their time, 8 o'clock my time. So after supper on a Wednesday night, he has another one this coming up this Wednesday. If I find out when that is, I'll send it out as a link in my email that will announce when this video is up, right? Because that way, if you want to attend, you can too. It was live and you can ask questions and whatnot. And it was about an hour and a half long. So anyway, it was really great. I did like screen print every single one of his slides, but what I really was doing was just grabbing that information. I haven't really even looked at those except just pass them off. I think I sent a few to you, Dr. Kathy, but other than that, I haven't really. I just, remember what he said and then did my own research further and accessing his stuff online. So I wanted to filter it through my brain, get myself to understand it pretty well so that I can then convey it to you. And I have always, said that cholesterol is the Lord and giver of life. I've done a whole webinar on cholesterol confusion and all of this. So this is not new information for me, but the nuances of it are extremely new and very interesting. So without further ado, I'm going to, got to pull up my presentation here. And then I will end up, you can participate by typing in the chat, wherever you find that on your screen, whatever device you're using. You can also go into the Q&A and type in there. And you can also raise your hand. And if I pay attention, Joe, sorry about that. Last week he had his hand up for like 20 minutes before I saw it. So sorry about that. As you guys know, I get really engrossed in what I'm doing here. And so that's what happens. Okay, so let me see here. I think that's exactly what I want to do. And then let's see. I think I might have to pull this up a little bit. I'm looking dead on at it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And then when I do that, I put you guys to the right, myself up here, and the chat. Whoops. Chat over here, so I see that. And then hopefully I will pay attention to hands raised. Okay, it's hard. I think I might be able to even move that over there. Oh, that works. Okay, because sometimes like my chat covers up my attendees, so it might have been that I didn't even see. Okay. All right, you ready to go? Okay, choline, cholesterol, and the brain. The folder I put this material into, I call Your Brain on Eggs. So yeah. Quick question. Okay, right. When you hear the word cholesterol, what do you think of first? Eggs, heart disease, brain health? Probably not. More likely something bad, you think you should avoid, because that's what we've been sort of brainwashed into thinking. So today we're going to take a look at the truth about cholesterol, how our bodies actually make, move, and balance it, why LDL is not the villain we've been told it is. Wow, and like, why it's not like a one size fits all when it comes to this stuff. That's like a huge takeaway. Um, why choline is king for your brain. Choline is king, its role in memory, mood, cell membranes, why eggs are the most powerful source of choline, food source. They're really not. Beef liver is, but you can get most people to eat eggs every day, but not the beef liver, right? So beef liver is the richest source. 3 ounces is something like 450 milligrams, which is practically, it's like a standard, like a good day's supply. But anyway, cracking the egg myth, the real story on dietary cholesterol, TMAO. We're going to get into that. It's interesting. I was working with somebody a little while ago, and she was like, we were talking about how L-carnitine might be a good choice for her, and she was worried about TMAO. And so you may have not have ever heard of TMAO. I have heard of TMAO, and I almost did a program on TMAO at one point in time, but then I realized I wasn't worried about TMAO. But we'll talk about that a little bit. And how the right foods and nutrients support brain and heart health. It's kind of nice. Kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So this is Dr. Dayan Goodenowe. Brilliant man, very, very brilliant. I will tell you, my take on plasmalogen supplements is I think of them as, for myself, I think of them like a super duper fish oil supplement. So my recommendation for people now is to get started taking them in your adulthood, by your 40s at least, if not earlier, as part of your supplement program, because you will be adding exponentially to, over the years, cumulative, keeping your plasmalogen levels up. If a person has something like full-blown Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's or something, that you're full blown and you're in the throes of it, you're going to need a huge amount of plasmalogen precursors to really make a dent in it. And I'm not saying that that's not possible or something that people would not do, but you're talking like taking a bottle that would last as maintenance or as preventive a month, at least weekly. So that was something I learned too. It's not as easy as taking 2 pills a day for ingrained already entrenched dementia. Although I did also find out that they have an in-house program there that you do pay for, but they offer all different programs. I'll have to, maybe I'll put that in my next email too, if you want to look into that, if you have somebody in your family who you want to actually take out there for a period of time where they will totally get on this and appropriate do, and you might be able to make some real difference in some pretty sad cases if you're able to do that. So anyway. So I'm kind of all over the place here, but egg as a key source of choline. In one of his presentations, like the one I was talking about on that Wednesday night, Dr. Goodenowe notes that meat and eggs are good sources of choline, yet he cautions that many individuals remain choline deficient even when their diet seems sufficient. And he talks about this in this paper. So when you get this PDF, you're going to be able to go here and find this if you're looking for it. So if you go to ApoE 4, there's 29. Yeah, that's what I remembered. So you kind of can go through, you can get the transcript of this interview. And he goes through some intricate stuff here, which I have kind of summarized for you in the slide presentation, but just know that you can go and find this here later on if you want to. This highlights the public health importance of emphasizing choline intake. I promise you, most people are not getting adequate choline intake, especially if you just consider the sad American diet, right? The processed food diet, the quick diet, the diet most people in this country probably are eating are not rich in choline, are not brain nutritive. So choline's role in cholinergic neurons. Dr. Goodenowe explains why cholinergic neurons, the ones that rely on acetylcholine, are especially sensitive to plasmalogen deficiencies. So if you have plasmalogen deficiency, the brain is a place it's going to really show up. Because these neurons depend on activity-dependent choline reuptake via specialized high-affinity transporters, a deficiency in membrane-supporting lipids, particularly plasmalogens, impairs both neurotransmitter release and choline recycling. And then there's a couple of other references there. You can go, that goes back to Dr. Goodenowe's page I was just on. And then this one is here. Episode, the plasmalogens with Dr. Dayan Goodenowe. Dan Goodenowe, I think is how he pronounces that. So there's another one, right? You can go on and grab. He's got a lot of videos and stuff that you can find out there, but cholesterol versus dietary intake. One of the points that Dr. Goodenowe made during that webinar a couple of weeks ago was that there's very little, and this is something that I've known, but maybe you don't, and it's important. It's worth really emphasizing that cholesterol we get from that's cholesterol present in food has very, very little, nothing significant influence on our blood cholesterol levels, the cholesterol that's in the body. So he draws a distinction between dietary cholesterol and the body's internal regulation. He emphasizes that virtually all cholesterol is synthesized internally, and dietary cholesterol plays a minor role, very minor role. Moreover, he underscores that cholesterol is a benign molecule by itself. It's only when oxidized that it becomes problematic. In his view, cholesterol isn't the enemy. Deficiencies in membrane components like plasmalogens are a more critical issue. Yes, the oxidation of cholesterol, right, which makes it inflammatory. That's why we stay away from vegetable oils and we go with saturated fats, right? Because the vegetable oils turn rancid in the body and they oxidize and they cause inflammation. So, plasmalogens, one of the things that they do when it comes to that is they stand as your first and very strong antioxidant to turn off oxidative processes that fuel damage to the arteries, if you will, from oxidized cholesterol. So to back up, and this is where it gets a little bit intricate, a little bit deep in the science here, but I think you'll enjoy it. I think you guys who follow me, I mean, you're nerds like I am. You don't mind this kind of stuff. Like for a lot of audiences, you just wouldn't even go this deep. You would try to get some bullet points across that people get and go home. No, because you guys, I know you like this stuff. So here we go. It's all about the cellular membrane. And I know in my plasmalogen presentations, I've shown slides like this, but I kind of understand it a little bit better now. The cellular membrane is more than a barrier. So you've got your cell and this membrane on top. It looks like on both sides, right? The blue beads. A flexible layer of fats, fats, which are lipids, proteins, and cholesterol that surrounds every cell. Think of it as the cell's skin. Okay, you've got your membrane here too. This is the membrane. So it's like, think of the membrane as a box. That whole thing is the membrane. Oh, someone is calling me. It's probably Google wanting to update my listings. Okay. The main purposes of the cell membrane, protection. Keeps the insides of the cell separate from the outside world, while still letting in nutrients and removing waste. So it's like a doorway, right? But like it can be changed in its consistency and its flexibility or its stiffness as appropriate, or It can be changed as inappropriate and then cause problems. Communication. Membranes contain receptors, tiny antennas that receive signals from hormones, neurotransmitters, and nutrients. This allows cells to talk with each other. Isn't this cool? Think about it. We are fearfully and wondrously made. It is so true. I get as excited about God when I'm studying something like this as when I'm studying the Bible, I have to say, because this is all a revelation of God. He thought all this up. It's quite remarkable. It's more than remarkable. It's really ridiculously crazy, hard to comprehend, impossible to comprehend. Anyway, transport. Specialized proteins and lipid structures in the membrane act like gates and pumps, moving substances in and out, cholesterol, glucose, ions, more. Okay, think of like your electrolytes. Flexibility and repair. Membranes must stay fluid to bend, fuse, and repair themselves. This is what's going on, this crux of ill health, this crux of chronic disease. They must remain fluid to bend, fuse, and repair themselves. That is why the right lipids, plasmalogens, phosphatidylcholine, cholesterol, are critical. So our fats really are the Lord, our lipids are the Lord and giver of life. In the hormonal cascade, cholesterol is the Lord and giver of life. It is the most upstream hormone. But how many people have been led to believe, and maybe your doctor still thinks, that cholesterol is a gicky, icky, gucky, goopy substance people get from eating too many French fries that gives them heart attacks? Wow. You would think so. You would think so. If you look at Madison Avenue advertising for cholesterol lowering drugs, or if you go to your doctor, 9 out of 10. Identity. Membranes display unique protein tags that tell the immune system, I belong here, preventing mistaken attacks. And so this is really very important for preventing what? Autoimmune illnesses, lupus, Sjogren's, scleroderma. So interesting, scleroderma, right? The hardening of the skin. Rheumatoid, psoriatic arthritis, and psoriasis, and yeah, many, the thyroid dysfunction, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, autoimmune attack on the thyroid. So why these membranes matter for our discussion today. Cholesterol in the membrane keeps it stable, not too rigid, not too floppy. Choline-derived phospholipids, like phosphatidylcholine, are major building blocks, critical for keeping membranes fluid and functional. If membranes fail, cells can't transport nutrients properly, can't signal correctly, and eventually cannot survive. Your cellular membranes aren't just wrappers, they're living dynamic gatekeepers that control what comes in, what goes out, and how cells talk to each other. Wow. I mean, just knowing how to keep that system healthy, right? Bingo. Bingo. So here's a couple of analogies. The smart security system. Think of the cell membrane like a high-tech security system around a house. Walls and doors, the lipid layer keeping the inside safe, locks and gates, transport proteins, deciding who gets in, nutrients, and who gets out, waste. Security cameras, receptors scanning for messages, hormones, neurotransmitters, flexible walls, cholesterol and choline-rich phospholipids, keeping the house sturdy but not brittle. If the security system fails, strangers, toxins, infections can walk in, or the house can't get the groceries or the nutrients it needs. And again, the waste can't exit. Here's another one. Airport security. Imagine the cell membrane as airport security and gates, customs gates, but when you're going through security. Passengers equal the nutrients, the signals, right, from the hormones and neurotransmitters, cholesterol molecules trying to move. Customs officers are the membrane receptors deciding if passenger is cleared to enter. This is really fun. It's a fun analogy. Baggage scanners equal the transporters checking and moving cargo in and out. And then runway integrity, the membrane flexibility. Without it, the signals can't land or take off smoothly. If the airport membrane is damaged, the whole system backs up. Signals don't land, supplies don't arrive, and waste piles up. Okay, so now we kind of got that backdrop. You've got to have that, right? That's what I love teaching this stuff, learning it and then immediately teaching it. The membrane, if we don't have the backdrop of the membrane, then you hear stuff, right? And you're like, okay, you get this vague kind of idea like the cells, right? It has to get into the cell, has to get out of the cell. And so it's just very vague and it's not very inspiring and it's not very clear. So now we have a clear idea of what the cell membrane is all about, why it is foundational to what we're talking about and what in the rest of this as we talk about mainly for the next few minutes here, cholesterol and how cholesterol interacts with the membrane. Going to find some very interesting things here. I think that you'll be surprised to learn. So let's understand cholesterol better. Cholesterol's role in the body, building block for hormones, vitamin D, and membranes. Wow. That sounds really positive to me, doesn't it to you? Transport. It's not good versus bad. It's their transport roles. So LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol, right, delivers cholesterol into cells when the cells need it. HDL, the so-called good cholesterol, we're told, it is good, but so is LDL doing its job properly. HDL removes extra cholesterol called the HDL efflux. And Dr. Goodenowe spent quite a bit of time talking about this HDL cholesterol efflux. I did not get notification that these webinar videos were up, and I've got to check with them about that because I would really like to pass these on to you so that you can view them when you have time, if you're interested. Brain versus blood cholesterol. Okay, this was a very big eye-opener to me. And I learned this when I was studying the plasmalogens for the first 2 sessions I did on plasmalogens. But let me just tell you, when I did the 4-part, it's a 4-hour webinar series on outsmarting Alzheimer's, I noted that people with the APOE4 mutation of the apolipoprotein E gene have higher blood LDL. Now, that doesn't mean if you have high blood LDL, you have that gene. Okay, so this is where I have to really clarify and put some cautions out here because it's not a one-size-fits-all. So please don't read into that if you have high blood LDL. But I thought, because I read that it was at that point in time that it was about cholesterol transport, but I didn't understand the difference between blood cholesterol and brain cholesterol. So the blood cholesterol that is measured when you get your cholesterol tested, the serum cholesterol, right? It's not measuring what's in the brain. The brain makes its own cholesterol. Like the cholesterol in our blood does not get across the blood-brain barrier. That was brand new information to me. Now, ding, 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 I get it. But there is a reason, and I'll come, that a person with the APOE4 mutation may have high serum cholesterol, right? Well, I'll just tell you. It's because, but I know I talk about it in more depth here. It's because it's a lipid dysregulation that's happening on both sides. Okay. In that case, right? Again, if you have high LDL, don't think, oh my God, I must have the APOE4 mutation. Oh no, I'm going to get Alzheimer's. No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay. The brain makes its own cholesterol. Blood tests don't measure it. What's happening in your brain may not show up. It will not show up in your cholesterol panel. Not may not, I should have said will not. Dietary cholesterol does not equal blood cholesterol. So that was our first point, right? It's not what you eat. In fact, it's very interesting because Diana Schwartzbein she was an endocrinologist in her first book, The Schwartzbein Principle. She took people, I'll make this really fast, long story short. She took people who were given to her. Her first assignment when she was out of school was with diabetics. Diabetics. And she was like, ugh, first, I love the pituitary gland. I would much rather work with the pituitary gland. And two, type 2 diabetics never get better. And then she noticed that the American Diabetic Association was telling people to eat was just the opposite of what they should be eating, like no eggs, right? No butter, none of that stuff. But instead, what are you eating? You're eating cereal, skim milk, muffins, all kinds of things that raise, just the opposite. So one of the things she did was she adjusted their diet. And I'm not going to go through that whole story, but one of the things she points out in her book as I was reading it was, if you don't get enough cholesterol in your diet, a certain level of cholesterol in your diet, your body will then overproduce it in a compensatory manner. So when you eat diet, she said the only way to keep cholesterol in the range where it should be is by eating foods that are high in cholesterol. So there you go. Now, Dr. Dayan Goodenowe in this webinar on August 27th, that one that I was on, was made the big point that people who live the longest have a total cholesterol between approximately 225 and 240. And so that's not what we're hearing either from our doctors, right? If they say if it's over 200, it's too high. And he pointed out with slides and graphs and all this documentation and studies about the mortality to all-cause mortality and mortality to cardiovascular disease and cancer and the whole 9 yards. So there's another little tidbit just to keep there in your brain. So Dr. Goodenowe on lipid transport, LDL delivery, and HDL efflux. So LDL is about bringing it in through the membrane. HDL is there's too much, we bring it out. Okay, according to Dr. Goodenowe, the body tightly regulates cholesterol levels to maintain optimal membrane function. See, the optimal cholesterol levels are all about cellular membrane function. Well, where are the cells? They're everywhere. We're made up of cells. They're everywhere. When there's excess cholesterol in cell membranes, it's esterified and exported out via HDL. Conversely, LDL delivers excess cholesterol into cells, excess cholesterol in the membrane into the cells. Low HDL levels signal impaired cholesterol export, suggesting unhealthy membrane cholesterol buildup. In contrast, high HDL signifies efficient cholesterol removal and healthier membranes. And again, you're probably going to want to say, whoa, give me a second here. And then you can go to more. Okay. Total HDL and LDL cholesterol, right? Dr. Dan Goodenowe. Learn more about that there than we have time for right now. Low H, okay. And then I think it's the same paper. Yeah. Okay. So you can read through that to kind of dig deeper. In the brain. So the apolipoprotein E gene. The brain relies on apolipoprotein E for both import and export of cholesterol. So it plays both LDL-like and HDL-like roles in the brain. Cholesterol export, efflux, from neurons and astrocytes depends on transport proteins known as ATP binding cassette transporters, specifically ABCA1, ABCG1, and ABCG4. And you can learn more about that here. Interestingly, APOE variants like E4 versus E3 and E2 affect how well cholesterol export functions, as certain variants can't form disulfide bridges, diminishing efflux capacity, right? They can't get out. Can't get out. What ends up happening? You form beta amyloid plaque, characteristic of Alzheimer's disease. It's all about cholesterol and the movement of cholesterol. An APOE gene mutation of the E4 variety causes an increase in Alzheimer's disease of that kind. The kind my mother had is not due to this. The early onset fast dementia is more associated with my genetic problem, which is MTHFR, which they totally have taken care of, thankfully. But when you see that classic familial Alzheimer's disease associated with this gene mutation, it is all about this problem. And that's why the studies that Dayan Goodenowe has done demonstrate that once you raise plasmalogens to a certain level, it totally negates the risk factor of having the E4 mutation of the APOE gene, which predicts for Alzheimer's disease. Wow, this is crazy, earth-shattering information. So yeah, I mean, a person with that gene in their family, and you're like 20 years old, get going on your plasmalogen precursors on a daily basis. Just get going, get going now. He talked about this. He said it this way, and I think I mentioned it briefly last week, but he said, taking a maintenance dose, he said, you know, yeah, is it going to reverse severe disease? No, you have to really take a boatload. But he said, if you're doing it like I'm doing it, it's like getting a 10% raise. He said, when you get a 10% raise, it doesn't seem like that much. It doesn't make any big difference today. But if you don't change your spending habits, that 10% raise over time has a cumulative value, right? So if you're saying, hey, I'm young now, I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, I want to age really healthfully because plasmalogens do a lot more than just the brain, but I really want my brain to age well. Start now and just do, you know, an affordable couple of capsules a day of, say, prodrome neuro for the brain. And you will, it's part of, I think it's a good part of, like, I have people on glutathione and DHEA. To me, it's a really good hallmark central anti-aging piece that I had not ever looked at before. So exciting to me. So key takeaway from this, the cholesterol in your blood isn't feeding your brain. The brain makes its own, but it uses the same apolipoprotein E blueprint to move cholesterol in and out of cells, and APOE4 conserves cholesterol more tightly both in the body and in the brain, which is why the person with the APOE4 gene mutation predictive of Alzheimer's risk might likely have a high LDL. Again, it does not mean that everybody with a high LDL has this problem, but that's the correlation. And when I was doing that webinar way back on Outsmarting Alzheimer's, I didn't understand that. So not so hot reasons for low serum LDL. There can be reasons why some people have naturally low, what appears to be naturally low LDL. Not low LDL because they're on a statin drug, because we're going to find out that's different. But just naturally low LDL can be a flag for something's not good here. You would not think that, right? Because if you go to your doctor and you get your lipids done and you come out with a really low total cholesterol and a really low LDL, they're going to congratulate you and say, you're doing everything right. Okay. Very low LDL levels can be a red flag rather than a benefit especially again, if they're natural and not due to statin use. Conditions like cancer, chronic inflammation, thyroid or liver dysfunction or malnutrition can drive LDL down, making it a subtle marker of underlying health issues. See, it used to be cholesterol was called the poor man's thyroid test. Cholesterol didn't become a problem in mainstream medicine until they figured out how to measure it. And then it was all about just getting everybody's levels to be the same. What? It still is that way. But what you want to do is when you see lipid levels doing something, you want to ask the deeper question, why in this person's case, in what we're talking about right at this moment, is LDL so low? There are rare genetic disorders that can also lead to low LDL. In certain populations, like people with diabetes plus albuminuria, so that's too much, that's albumin in the urine being excreted in the urine. The combination of low LDL and other disease signs can predict higher cancer risk. In short, it's not the low LDL itself causing the problems, but what it might be signaling under the surface. So, wow, we need so much more attention, intelligent attention on this topic in medicine today. A high serum LDL by itself is ambiguous. It's not either good or bad. It's neither good or bad. It could reflect a protective state, robust cholesterol availability, not driven by disease, possibly even linked with lower cancer in some studies, and it is. Higher LDL, lower cancer. And Goodenowe pointed that out quite pointedly during, he pointed it out pointedly, but yes, I mean, he made an emphasis of it. Or it could reflect ApoE4 driven conservation, reduced efflux that looks like high DL in the blood, but also means poor cholesterol handling in the brain. You can't tell which scenario you're looking at from an LDL number alone, or if it's a different scenario, or if it's just like, that's just the way it is. That's the way you're put together, and that's right for you. You need context, right? Genetics, other markers, what's your overall health picture, what's in your family history that we might look at and get some clues. So a single LDL value doesn't tell you if it's a friend or a foe. Right? Again, sort of just repeating it. A high LDL blood level doesn't automatically mean good or bad. Some studies show that higher LDL is linked with lower cancer risk and lower overall mortality, suggesting it can be protective. But in ApoE4 carriers, higher LDL may reflect a conservation pattern. A conservation pattern, their cells hold on to cholesterol, they've released less of it. So less LDL in through the cellular membrane of the body now, not the brain, but what's happening in the brain is being mirrored in its own domain. No HDL efflux, impaired HDL efflux out of the excess, impaired delivery in of the LDL delivering the cholesterol in. Okay, that makes it so much clearer to me. I hope it does to you too. The key point is that a single LDL number, yeah, we don't know. We need the bigger picture. Okay, I just kind of phrase that in a couple different ways. Now, naturally low LDL versus statin-induced low LDL. So this is where it gets interesting on that particular, what do I want to say, particular point. Large population studies show that people with naturally low LDL cholesterol tend to have a higher risk of cancer and higher all-cause mortality compared to those with higher LDL. In other words, very low cholesterol levels in the body can be a marker of poor resilience, higher vulnerability, or even an effective underlying disease. And I would like to just add to that, and I didn't get into that for today's presentation because this is very different, but there's a whole system that Goodenowe explains between how cholesterol and plasmalogens are central in cancer, and also brings in the whole DNA methylation thing, which you guys know I'm all about methylation. Oh, happened to hear on the news this morning, one of Bobby Kennedy's people on his team with human health services mentioned MTHFR. I don't know if any of you saw that, but he said how they were talking about Tylenol and the possible during pregnancy and possible contributor to autism. And then he was talking about folic acid and how 46% of the population have an MTHFR mutation and cannot use folic acid. They need a methylfolate or folinic acid instead. And how, our government has had us fortifying foods with folic acid that 46% of us can't use for years. So it's really fun to hear MTHFR on national news today for me. Where the statin studies come in, I digress. When researchers looked at people taking statins, which artificially lower LDL, they did not see a corresponding rise in cancer cases. So that's good news for those of you who have been on statin drugs lowering your LDL. It is a different sort of thing. Lowering that LDL artificially, although I think it's a very bad idea, why would you do that? Is not, it does not have the same effect. One of the studies I had on one of Goodenouwe's slides was that he had highlighted was the significant increase seen in cancer in people with low LDL, but that this was not the case when the low LDL was there because somebody was on a statin drug lowering their LDL. Okay. So natural low LDL without medication can reflect a body under stress or disease, hence the higher cancer risk. And then statin-induced low LDL doesn't seem to carry the same risk because the underlying biology is different. You're lowering cholesterol pharmacologically, not because the body is failing to produce or transport it. So yeah, that makes sense to me. So what exactly is choline? Choline is an essential nutrient that your body uses to build cell membranes, make the neurotransmitter acetylcholine for memory and mood, and support liver function and metabolism in a nutshell. It's an unsung hero. It's essential for building phosphatidylcholine, neurotransmitter acetylcholine, and hence plasmalogens. Why it matters. Not hence. I would say phosphatidylcholine and plasmalogens, and hence plasmalogens, and then acetylcholine plays a role in there too. And then choline is all involved in that. Acetylcholine, we know, is the neurotransmitter that is famous for being the problem with Alzheimer's disease. Supports memory, mood, and attention. Acetylcholine keeps cell membranes flexible and functional. Phosphatidylcholine, plasmalogens, crucial for methylation and liver repair. So talking again about methylation. It plays a role in DNA methylation. Choline, plasmalogens, and the cellular membrane. It's one of the essential building blocks your body uses to make the phosphatidylcholine, which in turn is a major precursor for plasmalogen synthesis. Since plasmalogens are critical components of cell membranes, especially in the brain, heart, and nervous system, keeping daily choline intake sufficient helps maintain the raw materials your body needs to keep cellular membranes resilient, flexible, and functioning well. So you get choline in your diet. Eggs are a great source, precursor for phosphatidylcholine. Supports the synthesis of plasmalogens, cell membrane lipids, critical for brain health, memory, acetylcholine, heart and nerve health, resilience, and signaling. How choline does its work. Of course, I have to ask that question. I have to know that. It makes it so much more, you would say, it's like reminds you when you're in school, right? When you're a kid, you're like, why do I have to learn this? I'm never going to use this, right? Math or something like that. And you realize, as an adult, you use math every single day. You'd be lost without math. But it does to me. I don't know if anything, if nothing else, it is motivating to change your diet, right? At the very least. Step 1, getting into the cell. So choline transporters on the cell membrane act as the entry doors. So they have a transporting role. Different transporters handle different jobs. High affinity choline transporter, this one, mainly in neurons, pulls choline inside for acetylcholine synthesis, critical for memory, focus, and mood. Choline transporter-like proteins found in many tissues help with general choline uptake for metabolism and cell structure, so throughout the body. Step 2, choline gets to work. Once inside, choline can take several pathways and can go this neurotransmitter pathway. Choline turns into acetylcholine via choline acetyltransferase, an enzyme. Used for nerve signaling, memory, muscle contraction, autonomic function. It can take another pathway, the membrane builder pathway. Choline is converted to phosphatidylcholine via the Kennedy pathway. Oh, I wonder if Bobby knows that. phosphatidylcholine, is a major component of cell membranes and the source for plasmalogens that stabilize and protect those membranes. Methyl donor pathway. Choline is turned into betaine, trimethylglycine, donates methyl groups in the methionine homocysteine cycle. That goes all back to my MTHFR stuff when I'm in the methylation process, right? Methionine from sulfur turns into methionine and cysteine for so methionine, and then is converted to acetylenmethionine, SAMe, and then converted to homocysteine, and then broken down by methionine synthase and goes around and around, supporting DNA methylation, detoxification, and liver function. Very exciting. All of this stuff works together. Why does it matter? Infiltration mechanism. The transporters actively bring choline across membranes where it's needed. Action mechanism. Once inside, it's shunted into multiple roles. Neurotransmission. Brain, right? You can think, can remember that person's name. Boom. Neurotransmission, membrane integrity, and methylation. Wow, we're talking cancer prevention, disease prevention of all kinds here. This is so exciting for me because now I'm going to be drawing diagrams like that along with my diagrams about methylation, DNA methylation, and folate and B12 and sulfur and glutathione and homocysteine and all of that. It's interesting because it was talking about betaine, right? So here, it's choline converted to betaine. Well, trimethylglycine is a methyl donor. We can take it, TMG, as a substitute for the more expensive acetylenmethionine, SAMe, and people will take either as sort of a natural antidepressant if it works for them. Anyway, connecting the dots, right? Connecting the dots. Action mechanism. Once inside, it's shunted in. Okay. And then Goodenough's emphasis: without adequate dietary choline, especially from bioavailable sources like eggs, you can't maintain enough phosphatidylcholine, which means plasmalogen levels drop and membranes, especially in neurons, lose their resilience. So eggs are an easy and exceptional source of choline. One large egg equals 147 milligrams of choline. Covers about 25 to 30% of the daily needs, which is estimated to be 425 milligrams for women, 550 milligrams for men. 2 to 3 eggs supply nearly half the daily requirement. Why eggs are exceptional? Choline is packed in phospholipids, highly bioavailable. So these get into your cell membranes. Cooking doesn't destroy choline, so that's really good. So you don't have to worry about what form you're eating it in. And somebody asked Dr. Goodenowe that during that live webinar, and he confirmed that. Whole food choline from eggs does not significantly raise TMAO. Easy, versatile, affordable source compared to supplements or plant-based foods. What is TMAO? Gut bacteria metabolize choline and carnitine into TMA. Liver converts it to TMAO, trimethylamine and oxide. Concerns. Some studies linked high TMAO with heart risk. Clarification. Whole eggs don't significantly raise TMAO. TMAO is what all the plant-based people are doing who want us to get meat out of our diets and animal foods, and that whole save the earth, whatever it is, global, save the planet, go green, try to scare people with, because you get carnitine from meat, and you get choline from eggs, and right. Whole eggs don't significantly raise TMAO. Supplements like choline salts sometimes do. Healthy gut bacteria and polyphenol-rich foods, garlic, green tea, olive oil, resveratrol, keep TMAO in check. If you're eating a healthy Mediterranean diet and you're getting choline-rich foods, right, that might increase TMAO, the other things in the plate, so I just don't even worry about it. It's a marker of microbiome imbalance, not a reason to avoid eggs. So compared to eggs, all right, egg, one large whole egg, 147 milligrams of choline. Beef liver, 350. I thought it was more than that, but 350. So some people like beef liver, and there's a lot of value to organ meats beyond the choline, believe you me. A lot of you take those organ pills, like desiccated beef liver and stuff like that. So that would be a reason you do that. Chicken liver, salmon, chicken breast, pork, milk. Again, from plant sourced, animal sourced, you have a good bioavailability of those things. And eggs are just good for you. There's a lot of things you could say. I could do a whole program just on eggs, and all the other things that they do for us. In addition, I thought that was so cute. Choline and HDL, LDL in a healthy population consuming up to 3 eggs per day increased HDL and good cholesterol, improved LDL, HDL ratio, and raised plasma choline levels without affecting TMAO. And again, if you're worried about that or you need to make that argument with somebody who's telling you about that, intake up to 3 eggs a day increases HDL cholesterol and plasma choline, while plasma trimethylene oxide is unchanged in a healthy population. I rest my case. Okay. Okay, TMAO and supplement differences. Importantly, research indicates that whole food choline, like from eggs, does not, yes. Nutrient density. Okay, we talked about that. Plant-based sources of choline. Brussels sprouts, you can see much lighter levels here than, contrast with one egg. But the bigger problem is the poor bioavailability. Plant-based choline often comes in the form of free choline or phosphatidylcholine in low concentrations. Free choline is more easily fermented by gut bacteria producing TMAO. Animal sources like eggs package choline and phospholipids, making it more stable, better absorbed, and less likely to spike TMAO, or will not spike TMAO, I should have said. Dr. Goodenowe emphasizes that non-animal choline sources are pretty worthless for building plasmalogens because they don't deliver enough usable phosphatidylcholine to the brain. End of discussion. Plants do contain some choline, but in small amounts and less usable forms. You need bowls of broccoli to equal the choline in a single egg, and eggs deliver it in the form your brain can actually use. So here are some choline supplements, how they differ. Salts, choline bitartrate, chloride, citrate. These are poorly absorbed into the brain and more prone to gut fermentation, leading to the increased level of TMAO. Phosphatidylcholine that you get from lecithin is better absorbed than salts, but still less efficient than whole food sources. CDP choline, citrulline, and alpha GPC are special forms used clinically to boost brain acetylcholine, but they're expensive, not always well tolerated, and not necessary for general nutrition. And then Goodenowe's emphasis, food-based choline, especially from eggs, is superior because it's naturally packed with phospholipids, making it blah, 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 blah. Lecithin and choline, those are the lecithin things you would see. Back when my mother had Alzheimer's, my dad and I were giving her shakes daily with a bunch of lecithin granules in there too. Of course, no effect, but we tried. That was back in the 80s. We were doing our best. Choline, 550 to 600 milligrams would be really good for optimal phospholipid support. So let's do a sample daily menu, right? Breakfast, 2 large eggs, 1 slice whole grain toast with 2 tablespoons peanut butter. I couldn't find a photo that was perfectly right. I couldn't get peanut butter on the toast, but a cup of milk is a 354 dose for the morning. For lunch, you might have grilled chicken breast, 70 milligrams, steamed broccoli, 60 milligrams, still not highly bioavailable, but that's a healthy meal, right? So you get a subtotal there of 170 milligrams, and all of those players do contain some choline. Snack later in the afternoon, maybe a handful of almonds, 15 milligrams, 1 apple, trace choline, not really significant. Dinner, salmon, 3 ounces, mixed green salad with a half cup of soybeans, edamame, subtotal 110 milligrams. So your dietary total there was 649 milligrams of choline with some good animal sources included. And eggs doing the heavy lifting, right? And the plant animal sources rounding it out. 2 eggs at breakfast cover about half your daily choline needs. Add a few ounces of chicken or fish, blah, blah, blah. There you go. So the key takeaways from today, from this presentation today, what we've covered, I'm so pleased with this. I learned so much, and I'm just so glad I was able to, as I was studying, put it together for you too. Cholesterol is not the villain. It's essential for cell membranes, hormones, and brain health. LDL delivers into the membranes, HDL through the membranes, HDL removes through the membranes. It's about balance and transport, not good versus bad. It's not LDL is the bad cholesterol and HDL is the good. That's very elementary and wrong. The brain makes its own cholesterol. Blood levels don't feed the brain directly. Choline is king, vital for neurotransmitters, membrane integrity, and plasmalogens. Eggs do the heavy lifting. They're the most practical, bioavailable, and brain-friendly source of choline. I really focus on eggs, right? Because like you can do eggs a million different ways. You can eat them for every meal in some way, shape, or form if you wanted to. I mean, they're just really, and they're very easy to do. And even when eggs were high priced, they were still very affordable food. I mean, oh, I paid $8 for a dozen eggs. Well, you know how many meals that is for $8, really? Whole food does not equate to TMAO risk. Whole food choline, I mean, does not equate to TMAO risk. Eggs support health without the supplement pitfalls. And daily diet makes it doable. 2 eggs plus other simple foods or more eggs. Meet optimal intake. Cholesterol is not our enemy. It's a vital molecule for every cell and every thought we think. What truly matters is how cholesterol is transported and balanced. And that process depends on having enough of the right building blocks, especially choline. Eggs with their unmatched choline content and bioavailability are a simple and powerful way to keep our brains resilient, our cells strong, and our health thriving. By cracking the egg myth, we can stop fearing cholesterol and start nourishing the body with what it truly needs. And here's this book. This is the late Stephen Sinatra and another author here. Cholesterol is not the enemy. And if you're interested in diving into that too, I think this is really a good recommendation there. So yeah, I hope this fascinating and somewhat surprising information has been helpful. I also hope you've enjoyed being better able to wrap your head around some of the vital processes in our bodies that define whether we will be healthy or not. And more info for clearing up the cholesterol confusion. It was just a breath of fresh air for me. As I always say, we have so much more power than we know. And feed your brain what it's been hungry for all along. Okay, I've gone over by about 6 minutes, but I think I started late too. So thank you, Cindy. Yeah, I know you guys are gonna, I know that you liked, I know that this was good for you. It's like, yes, watch this webinar. It's good for you. Eat your whatever, it's good for you. Thanks, Dale. Yeah. I think it's fascinating, and I'm going to pick up more eggs on my way home. I'm going to boil up some hard-boiled eggs, and I think the way I'm going to get more eggs into my diet is to have hard-boiled eggs always on hand. I don't have to be I don't have to be fancy with variety and stuff. If I know I'm hungry, throughout the day, I'll have an egg. I'm going to bump up my choline and my egg intake. So thank you, everybody, for being with me today. I hope you have a great weekend. And let me just see this more. Oh, Q&A. Got somebody in the Q&A. Oh, thank you so much. Very interesting, says this person, Dale. And yeah, it's eye-opening. It's life-changing. That's what I love about this. This information is not just eye-opening. It's like if you put it into practice, it can change your life and significantly. And the sooner you start doing it, right, the better. So I'm going to say goodbye. Take care. And I'll be back next week. I don't know what I'm talking about, something I learned this week. Bye.